When you were born, you look like your parents. However, when you grow up, you look like your habits. Too often people want to talk about, oh, I can't do it, it's my genetics. I'm just not built that way, I'm not gifted. Sure, I can see that. You might not be genetically gifted. You might not be blessed as one of those people who can eat whatever the fuck they want and still be in good shape. That's right, your genetics might not be that way inclined. Hell, I can raise my hand firmly as one of the peoples whose genetics weren't blessed for this, to be fit, to be healthy. Not even a little bit. If you know anything about my story, you'll know that I was deeply, deeply fucking suicidal through high school. I'd come home every single day and think about killing myself. And the reason was, I was bullied mercilessly because I was fat. But that fatness had nothing to do with my genetics and had everything to do with my habits and my choices. And, well, thankfully, due to some, I firmly believe in act of God, and you can disagree with me on that, but my father randomly, out of the blue, for Christmas, decided to buy me a weight set. And that one moment, that one act, changed everything in my entire life for me. Because, well, suddenly I fell in love with that. I fell in love with fitness. I fell in love with exercising. I had a place to channel my pain and my frustration and my hurt into something of benefit. That was the greatest thing that has, well, one of the greatest things that's happened to me. It dictated the rest of my life. I've spent my entire adult life training people, helping people, transforming lives through health and fitness because, well, it saved my life. But I wasn't genetically blessed. Hell, when my habits slip, you can see that I was not genetically blessed. As we discussed, I started demanding greatness because I was fucking 30 plus kilos overweight. I was disgusted with the man in the mirror. I hated everything about it. The man tits, my stomach hanging over my pants, how I felt, how I looked, how I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. And I was still exercising. I was still working out most days. I was doing all that kind of stuff. But my body told the truth. It told the story and that was the reflection of the habits I had going on. It was the reflection of the choices that I was making. Yeah, my genetics don't help the situation, but it has fuck all to do with that. And I've gone through ups and downs and phases of that your body will always be a reflection of your habits, your choices, your actions. And more than just, are you doing some stuff, but all of it. The deeper ones. I went to play college basketball in America. When I arrived there, I was 110 kilos of marshmallow puff. Had the big fucking cheeks like a chipmunk and the whole thing. But I was fit enough to make it. I was a fit dude. I could run all day. Different choices showed up when I reached college. Different realities showed up. I went from 110 kilos down to 67 kilos in my first year, in my freshman year of college. Different choices. My body reflected my habits, my choices, the things I was doing. And it will always be that way. People want to talk about genetics and how it's unfair and how they can't achieve these things because of it. Look, yeah, you're probably not going to be Mr. Olympia. Yeah, you might not be able to be, Chris Bumstead or Arnold Schwarzenegger or whoever you idolize. You might not be that guy. But I can sure as shit promise you that you aren't meant to be, the Pillsbury Doughboy. You aren't meant to be that guy. That's a reflection of your habits and your choices. That's a reflection of what you choose daily. And if you don't like it, change it. People who want to blame external circumstances for their life are never going to get anywhere. If it's always someone else's fault or something else's fault, it's never your fault. It's never because of you. Well, shit, son. It's always going to be because of you, because it's not going to change. You're going to stay stuck in that moment forever. Because until you make different choices, well, it's always going to be there. Someone we've spoken about before, that the hardest thing to recognize is that your life is a direct reflection of your thoughts, your habits, and your actions. It's all your fault. In the same breath, once you recognize that it is all your fault, well, now you're in control. Because, as I said, when it's someone else's fault, when it's genetics, your parents, God, the universe, the food industry, whatever it might be, well, that's outside your control. You're abdicating responsibility. You're like, not my fault, just the way I was born. Stupid parents didn't give me good genetics, or whatever your reasoning might be. You have no control. Yeah, you can abdicate responsibility for it and blame others and feel good in your victimhood of that decision, but you also can't change it. You also can't get better. You also can't end up in the place you want to be because it's not your fault. But when you take responsibility, when you take ownership and go, everything is my fault, it also means that everything is within your control. It means that everything is within your capacity to change. It means everything is within your capacity to have a better outcome. Yeah, I hated myself. I hated the man in the mirror. I hated everything about that. And I hated it even more because I also knew, and I'm sure you do too, I'm sure if you actually went back and looked at it, you know that it is your fault. That it's a reflection of your habits, your thoughts, your disciplines, your actions. It's a reflection of, well, at least the last 90 days, if not more, of the choices that you've made. The question then becomes, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do now? What harsh decisions are you going to make towards fixing that? As I said, it's the greatest gift if you're willing to own it, that it is all your fault. And this applies to everything, but the easiest one is always health and fitness. But it applies to everything. Fitness, money, relationships, happiness, all of that kind of stuff. If you abdicate the responsibility to someone else, you are going to stay stuck there because you can't change it when it's someone else's fault. But if you take responsibility of it, which it is, it's fully on you, then you can make a change. Because remember, life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we respond to it. Don't like the man in the mirror? Change it. Don't like your finances? Change it. Don't like where your relationships are? Change it. You might not like what is required. You might not like what comes next with that decision, but you are still within control. It is still your opportunity to have something better. It is within your opportunities to make different decisions. You just might not like the quote-unquote price that comes with that. And we've just discussed it before. It's only a cost to you if you don't gain anything from it, if you don't follow through, which is also why people don't want to take responsibility. Because most people's follow-through is crap. It's just dog shit. Myself included. I've been there. I have been there where I was so afraid to take the next step. I was so afraid to do what was required, to take the action, to step up, because my history showed that I wasn't going to follow through, that I wasn't a man of my word, that things would happen, things would arise, things would get easier, I'd get comfortable, and I'd stop. It's one of those ones where there are only two options. You either succeed or you quit. There's nothing else in between. You either keep going long enough and you will succeed, or you decide that what it's costing you, what you're paying to achieve that, to chase that, is too high, and you quit. There's nothing else. But blaming it on your genetics is the weakest opt-out, and especially when we're talking overweight. Look, genetics on becoming Michael Jordan, yeah, there's a bit of that. Becoming Chris Bumstead, yeah. Being a top tier, like the pinnacle of an athlete, yeah, there's a genetic component in that. Yeah, they have perfect genetics and they fucking work their ass off. But just to become the greatest version of you, no, that's not genetics. That's a choice. That's a decision. I remember my father, and to be fair to him, it used to be because once I'd gotten in shape, I used to pick on him. And I was young and dumb, and I regret that, but it's still part of it. And I used to call him Fat Man. My father has always had a gut my entire life. And I used to pick on him, and he's like, you just wait. You wait until you get a bit older, till you hit your 30s, till you have kids, and then we'll see. And I watch every year that progresses, and I watch my father waiting for it. And every year we go on, the more he realizes that, maybe it wasn't genetics. Maybe it wasn't life. Maybe it just comes down to the choices that we make. Because at 34 years old, well, I'm in the best shape I've ever been. At 34 years old, I get better every single year. My goal is to just continually improve, to get stronger, fitter, healthier, keep pushing the limits, no matter what. This isn't genetics, this is choice. Yeah, I've been in worse shape. As I said, I was 30 kilos overweight. And I made decisions to not be that man anymore, to not make those choices, to not pick the habits that were going to continually leave me stuck in that position, because I didn't want to be that man. We are not fixed, we are not stuck, we are not trees. We can choose to uproot ourselves and make different choices at any moment in time. We can become a different version of ourselves. The question is, are you willing to do what is required? As I said, my father wholeheartedly believed that he wasn't fat because of anything he did. That's what happened. And so many people believe this bullshit lie that, oh, well, your metabolism slows down and then you just get fat. And that's just what happens. Or you didn't make the right choices. Or your body is a reflection of your habits, that you chose to continue being this way. Yeah, it might have slowed down, maybe. But they've shown that that's fractional, so small. Usually it's due to the drop in testosterone. But also, you're still eating like you were in your 20s. You're still eating like you're running around and exercising every single day. If I ate like I did, and lo and behold, I was 110 kilos of weight, I'd probably still be 110 kilos of Pillsbury Doughboy, the Marshmallow Man. Or I can make better choices, or I can eat the way that fuels my body, or I can eat according to my goals. I can exercise the way I want to. I exercise to my maximum effort every single day, not just for the physique, not just to how it makes me feel, but the capacity it allows me, and also what it does up here. Your body is a reflection of your habits and your choices, not your genetics. So if you aren't happy with it, if you want to see something different happen, make different choices. Build better habits. Become a better version of yourself. Because it's all within your capacity. All of it. You just have to make that decision. Not sure where to start? Don't know how to get there? Shoot me a message or click the link in my bio. Join Demanding Greatness. And I'll hold your feet to the fire. I'll hold you accountable. And I'll give you the roadmap to transform your entire life into everything you want it to be. But first, you have to own it. You have to take responsibility and admit that it is all your fault. But that is also the greatest blessing under the sun, because it means that you can make the choices to become the greatest version of yourself. So if you're ready for that, click the link and let's get you started in demanding greatness. Until then.